devil's cup. Take that pill, drink it down. Flashing lights all around. High as hell, drunk like I finally don't give a fuck. 'Cause I'm breaking all the rules tonight. Not going down without a fight. As long as I'm still breathing, doesn't matter how hard you might try. We can take this freedom. Waking up, I'm a mess. Sleeping on the bathroom floor. Last night's a
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me okay. This is the Overpass live stream. Rodrigo, yes, you're first. This is the Overpass live stream. My name is Eric and I make apps. So this week, I don't have a lot to talk about today. So hopefully there's some questions out there. This has been a turbulent week, just like last week. The last 2 weeks have been that's the only way I could describe them, is turbulent. Lots of ups and downs. So last week, of course, my app was suspended, and then it was all the GDPR stuff. And once my big app Ear Agent was suspended, I kind of got very depressed over the weekend. And I was very positive about it too. I mean, but I was still kind of like, all right, so now I got to up my game. Now I got to get better at this stuff. Right, and I did do an appeal, and that was rejected. But the appeal was just so quick, like, I'm not breaking any rules. And then they came back with the response, and then I did the video that went out yesterday about what the response was. And it was only then when I was looking at it and I thought, hey, hang on a second, maybe I could go back. And this is something that a lot of people were saying to me, why didn't you go back to them? And I'm like, oh, because it's Google. They don't listen to anybody. It's not like, you can't get a real person on the phone. And then when I did go back to them, they did give me the time of day, which was fantastic. So yeah, the music. So that music is from audio. What's it? Artlist.io. It's called Freedom by Toxic Hearts. So I really like that song too. I have the license to play it. It's not one that I'm just doing whatever. So anyway, so that was the big thing. So yesterday I put the video out where I showed you what my what the response was, and just so I could say, okay, so now I have an understanding of why it was rejected, because I thought it was just rejected or suspended because it was on there for 5.5 years. I thought the reason they suspended it was because of what it was, and it wasn't that at all. It was kind of how it was being marketed. So then when I went back to them saying, if it's just the marketing, can I just change it? And then they did come back, and I honestly thought that I thought I would get one appeal and that was it. And all the people kept saying to me, you should try again. I was like, well, I don't think it's gonna work, and just thought, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so yesterday morning the email came through saying, we're delighted to tell you that we are going to we are going to approve your appeal, but you have to make these changes and everything. And I was like, I made the changes like right away. And there were certain things that once I really went through and looked at it, it wasn't just the marketing, but that was part of it. I had like one permission in there that it was asking for unmount volume, being able to unmount a volume, which I think was from like Start App or one of the other libraries, which I used for probably 2 or 3 days. And then when I removed it, the permission is still in there. And I didn't need that permission at all. I moved it out of the medical category. I did, and then I also realized that on Android 6 and above, I wasn't actually asking for permissions. I was just assuming they were there. So I noticed once I updated the latest SDKs, then nothing was working again, or it was working, but I had to go into permissions and set these permissions. So that was something that I had to do every time you started up to make sure the audio was going. Just little things that like a real developer would know, but I just sort of, it was kind of sloppy on my part that I wasn't checking those. So going through those, updating that, and once they approved it, I made those changes, I resubmitted it, and within like an hour it was back. Now I don't think my ad mob is back yet, so that's one thing. I keep appealing the ad mob, and I don't know if their system is down or something, but I keep getting this like form letter. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me just check on everything. So Yeah, Freedom by Toxic Heart. Yeah, it's really good. So that's the one I put it in one of the videos, and I was trying, I go through waves of trying to be like a bit more artistic with the videos, like have a little bit of montage scenes and everything like that. And that was in one of them, and I really liked that song. So then I put it at the end of all of them, and every so often. So now I have Emily in the office. She'll help me with editing. So this past week I was doing all the editing myself because she was on holiday, so she sometimes will put different music in too. But it's kind of it makes it a lot more like where I can go out and just film a bunch of stuff, or film the one for the day, put it on Google Drive, and she can download it and then do the editing in Adobe Premiere. I mean, because I don't really, everything is just like one take. It's not like I have to say, oh, this one part where I say this, can you bleep it out or remove the pauses or anything like that. We just sort of do it as it is. So anyway, but yeah, it's a cool song. So let's see. Rodrigo, you hate yourself for doing the first thing. Yeah, but you can't miss the opportunity, right? It's like being at a stadium and doing the wave, even though you hate it when people do the wave, but you got to join in. Let's see. Sup, Eric, and congrats. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate it. Freedom, that explains everything. Yeah, we're always searching for freedom, aren't we? We're always trying to, we go through our entire lives. We grow up thinking, if I just get done with school, if I could just, get done with this, with college, or you just get through a job, and you think, if I could just get done with this job, if I just get some freedom for this job, and then you get clients, you think, if I could just get some freedom for these clients, and then, or whatever, and there's always a boss, of some sort, and that's not true. So it's always trying to find places where you're comfortable with doing it. And it seems like for the longest time, my one overriding goal was just I didn't want to have a boss anymore, and and you can look at it two ways. I mean, I don't have a boss at the moment, but sometimes I take on clients who think they're the boss, and actually that's not true. Most of them have been pretty good. They know if you say, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to this because I was busy doing something else, then they understand. But if projects start to go late, they do. But it's one of the things. I have had clients who have been difficult, but now I'm like really careful that when we take on a client, that I make sure that I like them to begin with. So see, Mystic Rhythm says, hello, congrats, and show us your new office. So, okay, so I did a video, which is going to go out on Sunday, where I actually did a tour of the office and walked around a little bit. I could just turn the camera around, but it's really messy. So I've got these lights up and everything. So I'm not sure if it'll really be, so, yeah, I don't think I'll show you the office just yet, but I do have like, the old office had like one little window, and this guy would play the bagpipes outside, or the bagpipes, or the steel drums, or there's a mandolin. There's never a traditional instrument, but I've got this nice big window over here, so you can see outside, and there's like a little courtyard area, and it's kind of nice. So just to have that variety and just a change of scenery and everything like that. So that's cool. So let's see, it's 12:36 a.m. in India. Bye. I'm gonna watch it tomorrow. Sorry, Kripesh. One of these days, I know I keep saying I'm gonna do one earlier in the day. I'll do one earlier in the day at some point. But we'll do that. By the way, your setup looks awesome. Thanks. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I've got the standing desk. I've got the lights set up and everything, and just getting everything ready in the new office. The print, little things like the printer still doesn't work. It was I basically moved everything in on last Monday, okay, that's it. On Tuesday morning, when we all come back from the holiday, I'm gonna just start prospecting. I'm gonna start getting some new clients, bringing new people in. And then I was working on client projects and doing a bunch of other stuff. The ear agent thing is really good. I don't know so right now, at this point, I don't know if the revenue is going to come back to the way it was. But I think it's just glad. I mean, because, all right, to be completely, totally honest with you guys, when that app was suspended, it wasn't just the fact that the revenue was gone, although that was a huge part of it. The other part was like I had to come tell you guys that my app was suspended. And I felt like, oh my God, it would be like, here I am talking about apps and marketing and all this kind of stuff, and then my big app gets suspended. I mean, how hypocritical is that, right? It's almost like being an impotent app developer, right? So that's what really bothered me about it. And so yesterday's video, I was really pleased about the fact that I could go through and I was like, okay, wait, I can see why they did this. It wasn't because the app was bad. It was because of a few things that I did wrong, and I could keep that to myself, or I could tell you guys so that you guys don't have that problem in the future. But the big lesson I took away from that, and somebody said that in one of the comments today, you need to have more streams of income. And yeah, that's definitely true, right? We have the client work, but I don't want to just rely on the client work. I need to have the passive streams in. And there's so many things that I've made on to-do lists of products to put out, right? Like, you know, do we do a book? Do we do like a little course? Do we do, you know, should we try something else in some other markets just to see what they'd be like? You know, so I think a lot of things look really simple when you look at them, like apps do, right? It's a everything that has a low barrier to entry, everybody's flooding into it, and it's really hard to make that work. But you know, maybe we can, right? So, but yeah. So, do I have an ad bomb account manager? I think I do. I did. I mean, every so often they'll contact me and they'll be like, to answer any questions and stuff like that. But every time I try to get in touch with them, I never can. So, so I do have an email of somebody, but I don't think he's my. It's not necessarily an account manager. I think it's like the regional manager, like what you know, the contact. So it's not like my account manager. It's not like, you know, that would be cool. But now I don't think I make enough. I don't think I make that much for them to do that. So thanks, Kripesh. Boja Raj Club says, what difference did you find when you changed office? It's more psychological. So this is one of the things I said in a video. Actually, I don't know if this is one that went out already. So it is hot in here, sorry. Is I said, you know what, the office makes no difference to the quality of work, right? You know, some people just work really well from home. Like my team works from home. I prefer people to work where they feel comfortable. But I think like a couple years ago when I moved into that one office, there was a lot of reasons why there was like, I think my family just got tired of me being around all the time. You just got this like, you know, dude, you're always here. So I thought, you know, well, I just go like into the town, and I found like a really cheap office. And also doing the videos was easier because I didn't have to worry about, you know, waiting till everyone was gone. Like the first couple of years of doing the videos, I was like, wait till nobody's in the house. I wasn't brave enough to do them outside yet. So all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to put the green screen up. And as Rodrigo will tell you, I did the green screen all the time in the old days. And, you know, so doing that move was really good because it felt like I had a place, but it was still just me on my own. And when you're on your own in an office, you're like, after a while, it kind of becomes like your den, right? Even though it's in the town, no clients would ever come by. Sometimes they would, and I'd have to quickly clean up. But like I would take a nap in the office, like because I'd be in there at 4:30 in the morning, and I'd work through. I'd go to the gym, run home, see the kids off to school, come back in, and everything, and it was really good. But when I hired somebody and had somebody else in the office, then it felt like you gotta see what a terrible office it was. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it was good for what it was. But there are certain things like the heat, like it got really hot in there. I mean, it's hot in here too. I think it's the computers. We get really hot in here, and at like lunchtime, there's really no place to go. Like so, and I just wanted a change of scenery. So one of the nice things about this is there are like a bunch of businesses here, right? And in this day and age, there's like a lot of branding and marketing companies and stuff like that. That's just the state, and web developers and stuff like that. So I went to like a networking breakfast yesterday here in the building and met a few of the people here, and it just makes me feel a little bit more like an official office, right? So, but I'm trying to ride, because it's all psychological, right? It's all in your head. I'm trying to ride the momentum of being in a new place to make sure I get some of the things done that just kept slipping off the to-do list before. So, bringing in new clients, I need to focus a little bit more on the passive income. Like even like email marketing is something that I need to get into and think about how that works with GDPR. We have a list. I've talked to you guys about this before, where we have this on Ear Agent, Ear Spy. We had this spy training newsletter, which was like 13, we call it the spy training course, right? So every week for like 12, 13 weeks, you would get this email, right? But we never sold anything on it. Like there were no affiliate links or anything. It was just this thing that was there. And every so often people will complain about it because they can't remember where they got it, right? And they get this thing through. And like I kept thinking, at the time I was thinking, okay, we'll do that. We'll have landing pages all over the place. We'll have affiliate links, and we'll do all this stuff that you read about the other people doing. And in the end, we didn't do any of that. It was just every time I put an affiliate link, because we were using MailChimp at the time, and every time I put an affiliate link in the email, it would get a MailChimp would block everything because they said it was a suspicious link because I would go on ClickBank and find things. And so I think probably what I should have done was set up landing pages, and then we moved everything over to another provider called GetResponse. So basically what I'm doing is I'm paying all this money each month to send emails to people that I don't make any money from. So that's one of the things that it was like a thing that I started but never finished, stuff like that. It's things like that I like to get to. Let's see. Miguel Saldana says, sup Miguel. Let me just go back up here. Nice view, nice to relax when stressed. Yeah, it is kind of nice. I mean, I've gotten here like at 6:30 in the morning, and there's nobody in the building. And then I've been here at 10. I was at 10:30 at night the other night, and there's nobody around. And it's kind of just nice and quiet. So it's kind of cool. Let's see. Jack Run says, do you have try Appadeal for mediation? I tried Appadeal. Jack Run, I tried Appadeal once, and I tried it on one of my apps. I didn't get a lot of downloads, so probably wasn't a very good test. I installed the plugin in Chrome, and it went through the ad mob and started adding all the licenses and everything, or all the different ad units and everything. It was really cool to watch, but I thought it was kind of creepy. But I think, yeah, I haven't really heard a lot from Appadeal on other things. So I like the idea of having like mediation for something like Corona apps. The Corona apps are something that I would like to have mediation in, and you're so restricted with what you could do on that. Although they have made enterprise version of Corona free, so you could go in and code all this stuff yourself, but I haven't really bothered going through and doing that yet. So no, I haven't. I mean, Jack Run, if you've used it, how has it gone? In fact, if anybody out there has used Appadeal as a mediation network, and you found that, see, I've never heard anybody except on their promotion pages saying Appadeal was like a huge benefit to me. It changed my life. All this kind of stuff. I just haven't heard it. Everybody I heard of said they tried it. It was kind of okay. So, but I could be wrong. I mean, I'm just waiting for that one person to say, this is awesome, this is really working. Because when I tried it, I just didn't find that. So, Rodrigo, yeah, maybe you should work for Overpass. we could squeeze another desk in here if you want. Let's see, but it's probably be a long commute. Let's see. Kripesh said, by the way, how are you doing? Hope you are feeling some relief now. Yeah, I kind of am. I mean, I don't know if it's going to come back the way it is. You know what, Kripesh, to be perfectly honest with you, I've been going from super happy to depressed to super happy to depressed like this. There's certain things that just, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm going through some sort of age thing, right? It was like, like yesterday morning when I got that email, I was super happy. Then we had one of the client projects had a bunch of problems with it. I was like, oh man, we got to do all this stuff again. And then, and then it was something else. And then I tried to email some prospects, do some prospecting via email, and with GDPR, I'm not really sure about cold emails, how it works. I mean, depending on what you read different things. So I thought I'll try a couple, and I sent out like 10, and then one person complained saying, hey, haven't you heard of GDPR? I'm not on your list. And I was like, oh man. So it was like almost like being told off like you're in school. But yeah, I do feel a sense of relief. I think it's kind of all the things. And every time you do something new, you take on new expenses. Like, the office, you think as soon as we were about to move in the office, then the app got suspended. And I thought, oh my God, what are we going to do to make up for that? But things always work out. They just make you work harder and everything. So, but yeah, no, things are going well. Thanks for asking, Kripesh. Let's see, what was that? Sorry, I lost my place here. Rodrigo says, I tried Appadeal last week. Oh, how'd it go? I complained I couldn't get something working, and they came after me on Skype to implement it on my app. So, yeah, it's cool. That sounds cool. Let's see. Boja Raj Club, could you please make a video on GDPR and its impact on mobile apps? It will be great help. I think one of the things leading up to GDPR, and a lot of people were asking about it, and I think this is one of the reasons we don't hear a lot of information on it, is that nobody wants to be sued about it because it is so vague. It's one of these things. We had this, there was a thing called IR35 in the UK based on for contractors. So whether or not you were considered like an employee of the company, so you couldn't be like, even though you were a contractor and you paid yourself through your own company, if you worked at the same place, used their equipment, worked 40 hours a week, all this kind of stuff, then you could fall under something called IR35, which I don't even know what it stood for, but it meant that you would have to pay like all these taxes and you'd be treated like as a permanent employee and your taxes would go way up. So, but it was so vaguely worded that it got to the point where if anybody ever asked you if you fell within IR35, the answer was always no, right? Because it was so vague. Like you could just ask different questions and based on these weird things, and it was one of these weird laws. Right, and I think GDPR is kind of the same, right? They just, depending on who you talk to, some people will say, oh yeah, that would be fine, that would be fine. Other people go, no, well, no, because it's you're storing the information. No, because you're doing this. No, because you're doing that. And it's somebody's making a lot of money out of it at the moment, and I think a lot of people are losing money on it just for that kind of stuff. So, I mean, otherwise, I'd love to do one on GDPR. I would love to just have a definitive, this is what everything means, but I haven't met a single person, and I've talked to a lot of people about it who's been able to tell me, right? So I'm just like, it's just one of these crazy things. Let's see. Shajil Afzal says, hi, can you please talk a little bit about suspension email? What did you request? Any tip on getting suspended apps back? So yeah, I did that video on that yesterday. So it was just, I looked at the email they sent, and it was like one line in there which was in bold, and it looked like it was the only thing that was not part of the form because it was so vague. This is the problem. It was so vague, and it didn't say like, like this is specifically what's wrong. It just said, you violate this, you violate this. I'm like, how do I violate that? And then one line says, you made it look like a replacement for a hearing aid. And then that was one where I go, you market it as a replacement for a hearing aid. And that was one where I go, when I was looking at it, I thought, huh, is that what the problem was? Right? And I thought for the longest time it's been in the medical category, right? Because I tried all these different categories, and I thought, well, people are saying they're using it like as a hearing aid replacement, so I'll just put it in medical. Why not? And sometimes in some countries, like in Thailand, for years, it's been the top-rated medical app, right? Which is, if you had something that was like a genuine if you had something that was like, it treats ailments and stuff like that, I think you might get a little bit upset by that. But so it's always been in there. And then last year I did put aid at the end because I thought, hey, if we can rank well for hearing aid, then that might be good too. And so it was called Ear Spice or Ear Agent Super Hearing, and I just added aid at the end. Ear Agent Super Hearing Aid, right? So when I looked at that, I thought, so I did email them back. And even on the video yesterday, I said I didn't expect to hear back from them. I sent an email, and I didn't even do the appeal the second time. So what I did was I just replied to the first appeal, right? So I replied and said, so is the problem that I'm marketing it wrong? If at all, could I just possibly just change the marketing, change some of these keywords around, move it to a different category, and make these changes because it's being used by a lot of users. I would hate to disappoint them all, right? And we've been following all the rules over all the years and everything like that. And I said, but if you can't, I understand. But I just thought I'd ask, right? That was what it was, because I honestly didn't expect him to come back with that, because I thought Google. I just thought. I've tried to appeal things in the past, and Google's come back and said no. And a lot of the problem I had was that I didn't really understand what it was that was wrong, right? They were saying I was violating something, and I didn't know if it was the perception that I was violating something or if it was something that was violating. Was it something in the code that was doing something wrong, right? Or was it something in the description that I was put in there that wasn't there? And it turns out to be something in the description. So that was one where I went through and say, if I change it now, I resubmitted it. Everything went through. It's live on the App Store. If it gets pulled again for some reason, then I was wrong about that, because a lot of it is like feeling your way around in the dark, saying this is probably what it was. I want to make this change and have it go through. So, at some point I might do another video saying it's been suspended again, but I hope not. I'm genuinely. And I think that's the thing with a lot of us app developers, right? We're genuinely just trying to follow all the rules. We're trying to do what we're supposed to do, right? And we're just going up before these things, and they're saying, nope, right? And the Apple side is easier because they don't just pull it. They just say, nope, nope, nuh-uh, right? And you keep submitting it, and you're like, come on, man, just let it go through. And if it's your own app, it's easy. If it's a client app, so you have to two sides. You got you've got the reviewer saying, nope, You got the client saying, why won't they review it? Have we wasted all this money for nothing? All this stuff. It's like, no, it's fine. We just have to make some little changes, little tweaks. All right, so to get that through. Right, so it's just one of those things. So, but yeah. So Shajil, that was basically what I said. Right, it was, and I thought maybe I'd waited too long too, because I was looking at it was like 5 days after I'd gotten that email. It was like 5 days where I just like, I've done so many videos about it over the last week where it was like just feeling like, things. The worst thing that could happen has happened. Well, it's not the worst thing that could happen. That's ridiculous. But I mean, it was. I was very upset about that. Even now, the revenue's not back because the ads aren't put back. But it was. I was just glad that it was back. I was so surprised. I was so surprised that it came back. And I don't think it's because. It has nothing to do with me or because they like the app or they thought Eric's a good guy or anything like that. I think it was just. I just asked, right? And, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's had a few, over 5 million downloads, but in all the Play Store, that's actually not a huge number. I mean, considering all the other ones there. So I do think that apps that have more downloads get better treatment than those that don't. So, and there's other apps that I've had suspended that I didn't appeal it. There was one where and I talked about this before, it was like a Swing Copters clone where I actually went on Chupa Mobile, bought the source code, my designer redid it. We did like a spy themed one because I thought it would be good for the Ear Spy audience. And I guess we didn't make it different enough. And once we released it, I mean, it was like 6 hours later, it was suspended. And I thought, well, I'm not doing that again. And I haven't purchased any code like that again. So, that was one I didn't even bother with. So let's see. Sorry, you guys are asking loads of questions. The office tour. So hey, Shashak, the office tour is going to be on Sunday. I'll do it on Sunday. So I actually walked around like it was yesterday morning, and I walked around and filmed like around the office and everything. So, but I would give you a tour of the office. Don't even work about joking for you. Oh, did Apple deal stop supporting Cordova and Ionic? Let's see. Are you on the same time zone and already work from home? And for Ionic for 2 years. This is it. I mean, I'm still a big fan of Ionic. I have one video out there where I said why we're not using Ionic anymore. We're using React Native on stuff. But I love working with Ionic myself. I mean, I still do. I did some work. See, this is one of the things I did this week, which I thought was working and it was more procrastinating, was looking into progressive web apps. And I was like trying to get one running and everything like that, and through Ionic, and which I think it's a really cool framework, and I think I still really love working with Ionic. So, but then I get as a developer, like when you start a new project and you get to that first speed bump where you just stop, you get some stack trace thing, and you're like. You're searching around trying, okay, what's this? What is this? I don't even understand what this is. I'm doing everything on this tutorial, and then you get this thing, and you just like, you can either push through and find it, or you can say, screw it, I'm just gonna do something else. And I did the latter on this one. I was like, I'm just gonna do something else because I had other things I needed to do, and build a progressive web app was not on my to-do list for that day. So So let's see. Tom Sutherland said, give us a tour of your office. Data Plus Code said, I have a quick question. When have you given up on trying to make an app a success and moved on to other projects and left the app to fend for itself on the App Store? That's see, that's what I like to. I like to produce things. So a lot of the apps that we've done were like the language learning apps. So we did the one framework, and then we reskinned them for all the other ones, which is one of the reasons why we kept running into 4.3 errors on Apple. Right, and so that's one of the reasons we just removed them. So if you look at our Apple account, it's only got like 3 or 4 apps there now because of that. But a lot of them are because I have the team. I've got 2 people in the Philippines full time, and I've got Emily here. So we could a lot of it can be let's do the social media, reach out, put everything through it. Try a lot of stuff with ads, but sometimes like with these ones, if I run an ad that's like I spend like $50 or $100 on it, or £100 on it, and nobody's really downloading it, then you know, at that point I'll try some other things. But I think I still leave it on the App Store, right, to see if I can. And sometimes it does pick up. So I had the one Korean bubble bath, which was just like, you know, maybe 5-6 downloads a day, and then it shot up to like 50, 60, and it just stayed at that level. Like something happened in the algorithms and the keywords, where for some reason it just showed up. And it could have been anything. It could have been a backlink coming from somewhere. It could have been it could have just been changing the keywords. Sometimes, you know, every so often I'll go through and I'll change keywords on stuff, and then I'll check App Annie a couple days later to see how it's ranking. But I can't think of any that I've really given up on. But because all the stuff with GDPR, and I had to go through and update them, and it was like this rock and a hard place last week, where I thought either I go through and I recompile everything and Apple won't accept them anyway, or I just, you know, let them die. Then, you know, some of them I just let them die, just because it wasn't even worth enough money. They would even make enough to be worth the time to do the update. So let's see. Radiohead said, "Hey Eric, just thought about the game. Have you thought about game development? It brings a lot of money, they say." Does it? I mean, I'm always curious about game development because there's so many games out there. I don't know how well it does. I mean, from what I'd read, I mean, this was years ago, like a utility app, it increases the value of your phone. So if you have something like, say, Shazam or something like that, that is something that you carry around, you keep it on your phone because you think that one day you might need it, right? But with games, yeah, I'm not sure, but I know that a lot more people play games than don't. So yeah, and you look at, you know, the games play a lot more psychologically. You get a lot more screen time. You know, people are going in there all the time. Something like Ear Spy or Ear Agent, you know, they'll use it maybe once or twice, and then they'll get rid of it, and so, or they'll say it's good, it's bad, it's, you know, it's dumb, whatever, and then they'll move on. So let's see. Office Tour. Thanks. Rodrigo's doing crowd control. Let everybody know when the Office Tour is. Let's see. Game development. Shajil says, "Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly." Did I? Oh, thank goodness. I'll watch your video number 361 after your live video. Congratulations on getting it back. Thanks for happy for you. Yeah, that was one where I almost wasn't going to talk about it because it was the appeal getting rejected. Some of this stuff, I try not to be embarrassed about it, although I kind of am, getting apps rejected. But then I thought if we could all learn from each other on it, then you could see what that is. And I'm not saying it would work for everybody. Like I would hate for somebody to go to them and say, "Hey, you guys, you know, this one guy, you did his, why can't you do mine?" Because then you kind of get mine removed. But yeah, I don't think that would be the case. But yeah, I think that 361 was a good one, and that's the one where I was talking about overload apps. So that was kind of funny. It's still out there. I don't know if I should report them now that Ear Agent is back. Let's see. Data Plus Code said IR35 has been shaped by case law, and when people have been taken to court by HMRC, maybe GDPR will be shaped by companies being challenged by how they handle people's data under the new law in court. Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's a good thing, right? Most of us aren't doing anything with people's data, right? We're just trying to, you know, like, we're not marketing people, we're not spamming them. We're just doing, you know, we're doing what we're doing. We're app developers. We just want to put an app out there, and these rules come in, and they're not telling us and nobody says specifically what you should do. And it seems like even the big guys, and probably targeted more towards the big guys, Apple and Google and all that, they're probably the ones that least likely to help because they're the targets of it all. So, is here. He says, "Hi everyone, congrats on the resubmission, Eric." Thanks. I'm really pleased about it. Sami Biala says, "Hi, I received notifications from Google AdSense to support publishers in complying with Google's updated EU consent policy. EU user consent settings are now available. What should we do?" Is that the consent API? So Google released the consent API for native applications, where you can just plug it in and it will open up, and you say, and it has the yes, or do you want to serve personalized ads or non-personalized ads or no ads? And if you select no ads, then you can send them to the App Store to buy the pro version or to the in-app purchase or whatever. If it's non-personalized ads, then you have to send. It wasn't really clear about this, but my reading through the documentation, you have to send through the extras bundle that says NPA equals 1, which is the non-personalized ads, right? So go through and do that, and then you got the personalized ads. And the way that Google made it look, where other things didn't, was that you could say, if it's an EU user, then give them that option. Otherwise, forget about it. So that was, that was in there. But my problem with, so that was fine with the native apps. So I did it on both the iOS and the Android version, but I didn't do it on like the Corona apps and everything because that stuff wasn't ready. And even it was funny reading the last week reading the forums on Corona, because you can see everybody's frantically asking, when are you going to come out with this? When are you going to come out with this new functionality? They're like, we don't even know what to do yet because Google hasn't told us yet. And it was just this, this thing. So, but yeah, have a look at the consent API, Sammy, and see how it looks. But yeah, for me, how will it affect my app from a financial perspective? It's difficult for me to know from a financial perspective how it's going to affect my apps, because my whole AdMob account deflated when my big app was removed. Like, it coincided with the GDPR, so it was really weird. So I'm kind of like, I can't say before and after because I've got this big chunk of missing data. But possibly in the next few weeks, then my revenue, hopefully my revenue would get it back up to a normal amount, and then I'll be able to compare before and after. But it was kind of like this like car crash in the middle of it for me. But some of you other guys will probably be able to tell a lot easier what it's like the before and after on that sense. And I'm sure most people are not doing it. But let's see. Jack Run says, how about Flutter? Do you like it? I do. I mean, I haven't really done, it's one of these things where I keep looking at and thinking, hey, I need to do something with Flutter. I'm like genuinely excited about it. I think it was gonna be like really cool. I like the idea that they're not doing anything with like a WYSIWYG type stuff. There's no XML language like in Java or like in Android where you have to, or like the nib files in Xcode where you have to go through and drag and drop, and you have this separation between the like the presentation and the data, like the code, right? I like that idea about it. I don't like the way that it's so nested in widgets, like a widget of a widget of a widget of a widget. But I think that's just a cosmetic thing that I would have to get used to. And I'm just debating whether or not I want to learn that language and do that. And then also the nice thing about using something like Ionic or React Native is that you're still on that one language. So if you do need to do something on the web, you can. And Flutter, I think, would be better as a mobile application framework. But then you think if everybody moves to PWAs, then you're stuck in native land. So you just I'm kind of two minds about that. Excuse me, let's have a drink of water here. Oh, sorry. All right. So let's see. Ronnie News says, "Hex, Eric." Hex, Ronnie. Let's see. Sorry, I know I'm way behind on you guys' questions. Said, I tried Flutter. It's not bad, but feels a bit limited in scope. If you just want to make a quick app with all the default components, I think it would be perfect. Yeah, I mean, I read somewhere that because the frame rate is really high on Flutter, that it could possibly do games, but there's no game framework on it, or does that, so I mean, that's so I don't know if that would be something like that would be. Like if there was a way to do games and business apps on it and you had this one framework for both, that would just be killer, but I don't know if that's actually the case. And a lot of times, like you look at JavaScript, I remember in the early days of JavaScript games and HTML5 games, people were actually writing their own frameworks. There was one called Impact.js, which was really cool, but there are other people writing their own, which was just basically using the game loop and everything, and on every iteration of the frame reload, they would have the things move whatever number of pixels and everything. So I think it would be something that somebody could do, write a Flutter game engine. I don't know if that it wouldn't be anywhere comparable to like Unity or anything, but still be kind of cool. Let's see. Does Flutter make working with layouts in Android easier? I don't know. Some of you guys could probably do it. The thing I don't like about native Android or native apps in general is like every time I have to go change something, It's the same way I felt about desktop applications and web in the early days. I like the idea that a website, you can reclaim the empty space, and on a form, like a desktop application, it was much more difficult to do. So like if I had 5 text boxes and I want to remove the third one, everything else slides up and it just reclaims the space, which is a lot of what web applications do. And it looks like that would be how Flutter would work, as opposed to the XML stuff. And I know there's different types of layouts. There's like the linear layout and the grid layout and everything like that. But I don't like going on Android, like native. I don't like going from the Java into the XML and then back into the Java, and the same with the nib files in iOS. It's just it's not something I really like doing. But so I think it would make the layouts a lot easier. But let's see. But that's just me, because I prefer the layouts to be done in code. Like in Corona, I like the idea that I'm coding away, and then I've got the emulator there, and every time I save, it just refreshes. The same with Ionic and everything like that. But let's see. Karel says, "Hey Eric, I just made my first app money ever." Oh, that's awesome. Literally just an hour ago, a German clicked on my banner ad and I got 23 cents. That's cool. The first money is the best. Now you don't have a money problem. Now you have a scale problem, Karel. So now how do you increase that, right? You got to find more German guys to click on the ad. So no, you should be excited. So yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Amir says, "You give me hope again. I also reappeal again." Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I said, I wasn't expecting anything, so that might be a fluke, right? But yeah, I think basically let them know, because you got to think about basically what I did was I went back to the reviewer. Once I realized there's a person at the other end. If you're like, hey, I wasn't trying to do anything wrong here. Like if you were doing something like where you were genuinely trying to trick people, or I mean, some of the apps out there are really sleazy and dodgy. They're trying to copy everything else. There's copyright infringement things here and there, or they're trying to steal data from the phone. They put any SDK they put in there. A lot of the companies that call you up saying, all we need is access to the microphone, and then we won't even charge you it. You'd be able to make money without serving ads. I'm thinking, what do you need access to the microphone for? I say this kind of stuff, right? There's all these sleazy things out there, right? And if you let them know that, hey, what I want is what you want, which is for Android users to have a really quality experience. And if I stepped out of line, or if I did something wrong, I really apologize about it. I'll do, give me a chance to fix it, because that's definitely not. And even just say I've reread the guidelines. I see what you're talking about here. There were a lot of users on this thing, and they really enjoyed it. I think it made the Android a better platform. Oh, whatever, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. So let's see. NFJ Innovation just joined. Yay! Aren't you on NFJ Innovation? Aren't you usually under a different name on the channel? Let's see, because I recognize the picture, but let's see. Let's see. Data Plus Code says yes, much easier. Oh, cool. All right. Told Data Plus Code. I'm gonna check it out. Christopher said, "I forgot. I updated my keywords for my app after Steve's course. It's only been a few days, and my keyword rankings are already on an uptick." That's cool. That's really good. That's fantastic, Christopher. Let Steve know that, because I suppose I've never hired an ASO guy. I've always done it myself, and it's one of these things where you if it works, then I'll do it, right? If I hire an ASO guy, because a lot with ASO, I think about SEO. I mean, I've hired an SEO person before, and it was like just pestering me through. I'm thinking, they say, we can get you on the top of Google, or whatever those stupid claims they make. And you think, I don't believe you. And then you think, maybe they're right and I'm just being stubborn. And then you hire them and you think, nah, it's not the case. So, but ASO, I mean, it's a skill, and Steve's probably one of the best at it. So, I mean, that would be cool. But it seems like it's like a black art. This is the thing that gets me about it. It's not like do this and then this and then this and then you'll get this result. It's like you're constantly just improving. You're massaging it and everything. So let's see. Radiohead had a message retracted. Radiohead said, "I get 2% reductions from AdSense every month. Is this normal?" No, not every month, because at some point you're gonna have nothing left. I think. Check your impression. I mean, check your impressions. I know the RPMs have been low, so check your impressions. Check them based on location too. Check your locations, because for me, my RPMs kept falling, and then I saw that my target users were going from the U.S. to different places, and then India became a big one, and the RPMs in India were very low, but I mean, it was still making money there. It just wasn't making as much as it was when. So like I would look at the, this today I had 5,000 downloads of the application, or 5,000 unique users, and I think, but the RPM's lower. It's either something on AdMob side, or let me have a look at it, and then you break it up into all the different permutations, and I can see that it was actually due to the fact that if I did it broken down by country, I could see that actually it was India that was low and US was still very high, and if I did that filter on there. So let's see. Hamza Bachar says hi. Hey Hamza. Let's see. And Tom said, "Do you mean so cool? Hey, have I answered all the questions? I have answered all the questions. So I hope you guys are having a great week. I apologize for all the emails, all the drama in the emails. My app's been suspended. Poor me. Oh, here's why my app was suspended. It was almost like as I was doing that video, I thought, hang on a second, and then it was the like, yes, my app's back, and it's. And I almost, some of it is like, I don't want to just keep talking about me all the time. And I know we haven't been talking about, we haven't been talking about like certain topics this week. So tomorrow, I answer. So I've got two, same as last week. I've got tomorrow and the next day done already. Tomorrow is one about progressive web apps. So I talk about monetization. This is a preview, and then on Sunday is the one where I actually show you guys around the office. And it's not that impressive, but it is what it is. The other office I still have the keys for. It's empty. I could walk around there naked or whatever. Or, I don't know. Like it's all nice and clean. Like I should like take camp out there or something just because like I have it for another week and paying for it. Let's see. Sami says, thanks, Eric, because of your videos, I got more than 1,000 downloads a day. Fantastic. I don't think it was because of my videos, though. Since I started watching your videos in May 2017. Cool. I mean, it's not, it's not that hard, but thanks. Hey, Sammy, if you want, you can leave me a review on Google Business. That's one thing. If you ever look at the description of the videos, sometimes I say I'll leave a review on Google Business, but I might do that. There's so many things I need to do. I hate asking for things. So let's see. Carol VDW says, do you think that if you were younger, I love the start of this question, Carol. Do you think if you were younger when you started with apps, theoretically, of course, I know you weren't around, apps weren't around when you were 20 or so. What do you mean? I'm like 25. Would you have focused more on your own apps? You know what? I don't think I would have. I think I think a lot of it for me was just being the confidence, like just in general. So like when I was 25, I wasn't even in IT. I mean, it was like I was out of high school, joined the Army, and because I didn't know what else to do, so I was in the Army for 4 years, and then I decided I wanted to be a journalist. So I went to university to learn journalism, but I kind of talked myself out of that, thinking, yeah, I'm probably not smart enough to be a journalist. So I went into history, thinking I could be a history teacher because that sounded pretty easy, and there's lots of history teachers, and there's not a very demanding job, everything. And then I got my degree in '98 when I was 25. And I moved out here to England, and of course my degree, my certification to teach history in Missouri was no longer valid. I mean, out here, and I just couldn't find a job at all. So I was packing. I'll tell you guys my dairy story. So like a few miles from here, there was this factory that they made yogurt. So I got this job working nights because we had a little baby, and I had no job. I'm living in my mother-in-law's house. I thought my life is over. Right, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and I get this job in a dairy, and I'm packing yogurt into boxes from 10 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, and just this conveyor belt, right? It was this thing that just like wasn't, and I would send off CVs. I would send off CVs to like every company I could, and this was in the post because as you mentioned, Carol, I'm old. Right, so I would send off like CVs in the post. I would go to the after my 6 a.m. shift. when I come home, I would stop at the news agent, and I would get like all the newspapers, and I would go through the want ads, and I would apply to everything, regardless of whether or not I had any skills in it at all. I would just apply for everything because I thought I got to do something, right? I can't be, we had no money, we had no prospect, there was no future. There was just, it just was what I had, a baby that I could barely support, and then I got I had like 3 interviews in 2 months' time. I had 3 interviews, and one night I met a guy at the dairy. He was a QA guy. He had a degree in history too, and that just was like, it just floored me, thinking, God, I'm never gonna get out of here. And I applied for everything. I had 3 interviews. One of them was a ticket collector on the train, right, which I didn't get. Another one was the night manager of a Blockbusters, and I didn't get that one either. And I got another one, which was this weird one, which came from Canary Wharf, like the big financial district. And they said it was for an IT trainee kind of thing, because they were like trying to, for some reason, they were impressed with my CV. So I went down there, and I was like, and I didn't have a suit. So this is a boring story. I don't want to tell you guys all this stuff here too, but hey, Rachel's here. What brought me to the UK? Because my mother-in-law, she was ill. Rachel, it's nice to see you. So I got this. So I went down to this. I didn't have a suit, so I went to this charity shop, and I bought this suit for like £8, which is like, I guess, $10-12, right? I wore this suit and my army shoes, and I went down to Canary Wharf, took a train ticket I could not afford. Right, and just going further and further into debt, and I went to this big open evening. There was like 70 people there, I talking to all these people, and everybody else was from IT. They all had like project managers or whatever. They're for this open evening, right? And I'm just talking to people, and I just thought, God, I felt like the biggest fraud of my entire life. And and they asked lots of questions, a lot of problem-solving questions, and I told them, I said, I've never, my only computer skills are WordPerfect. It's like WordPerfect, and I didn't really, but I said, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to all this stuff. I was just like, I'll do what I have to. And then I got, the next day they made an offer, and it was like, all of a sudden I went to the library and checked out a book on Java, because it was the only thing I'd really heard of. And I read through it, and everything was so over my head. It was like not even funny. It was like, you just think, okay, I'll learn this all before I start, like in 2 weeks' time, right? And I was still working at the dairy, wearing the white hat and the overalls and the white wellies, and packing yogurt into boxes. I'm trying to read this book, which I did not understand, and I didn't even know if that's what they needed. And I went into work, and they were like, I worked for somebody else who just could not stand me. My manager they put me with, he couldn't understand why I was hired, because he wasn't the guy who hired me at the open evening. And he's like, I don't know what to do with you. You don't have any skills. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll learn. And it was like, they had this learning library there, and I was so you check out computer books, right? And so as a trainee, so I would always have one of those books, and I read through loads. I read through the JavaScript Bible, like cover to cover, right? Like, because I had this 2-hour commute each way. I read through the whole thing. I got really good at it, and I became, so like the first day they gave me this task saying, we have this and some of you guys, you might have heard this story before, but sorry to go on it again. They had this like their task was, we have this Excel spreadsheet in this Access database. We need you to copy the details, copy from this Excel spreadsheet to this Access database. And my question was, what's the difference between Access and Excel? And the guy looked at me like, and it's just like, I never want anyone to look at me that way again. Like, just disappointment. Like, he goes, well, Access is a database and Excel's a spreadsheet. And I said, oh, okay, right. I didn't know what that meant, right? Like after that, I went through, and I studied hard. I was working late, and I was like, I took, every time they'd have a course that came up, I would take it. Every time they would have anything going, I would try to learn it. I became like, I got embarrassed about not knowing things. And it was funny, because after like a couple years, people didn't know that I was working in a dairy. People didn't know any of this stuff, and I was just like, but it was just because I'd asked. I mean, there was so many people who would not do that, who would not apply to every job that was out there, right? And you know, because there's opportunities out there if you could find them. And then when you get them, you have to really hold on to them. And even when I hire someone, I hope that they'll be the kind of person who sees the opportunity that's there and really give it 100%. And because, I mean, that's what it was. And it was like, and after a while, my salary started going up and up and up. And then I moved to another job and another job. And then I became a contractor. And then I became a very highly paid contractor. And it got to this point where I was working all these contracts, and I, you know, and I was making a lot of money. And then after a while, I thought, you know what, I hated the idea of not being my own person, and that's why I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to, you know, I had this dream that maybe one day I could be self-sufficient. I could have my own, you know, maybe I never even thought about having my own company growing up. And then, like, it's at one point where I thought maybe I could just do my own. You know, all these other people, it seems like you have like really talented, sorry if this is boring, you have these really talented technical people, right? We go through and we sit there through the night and we have all the bugs and the you know, we sit there on Stack Overflow looking for the problem. We have bugs that last for days or weeks, and we bang our heads against the desk, and we have all these issues, and we read everything we can. We become experts on these things, right? And you have a manager who can't even be bothered to pick up HTML5 in 24 hours or whatever. He can't even be bothered to learn the smallest little thing. They have these conversations, these BS management conversations where they're like, oh yeah, so we have this resource and that resource, and I don't want to be a resource anymore. I thought, you know, it's much easier for a technical person to learn what they do than it would be for them to learn what we do, right? And it was just, and it bothered me that a lot of the times you look at software developers, and I was one of them too, right? Where, you know, because I would talk to other ones, say, why don't you apply for this other job? And they'd be like, oh, they don't need me. They need somebody with .NET experience or whatever, right? Because a lot of the times we have the self-confidence as, despite the fact that we have so much skills and we can do so many cool things, right? Our self-confidence is lower because we have this boss or this manager or the guy who looks like, who's 6 feet tall and looks like he's got the perfect hair, and he's the guy, the manager, right? And I'm a leader. I'm a natural born leader. You know what? Screw natural born leaders, right? We're software developers. They can't do anything without us, right? We're the ones who know how to do stuff. We look at something and we say, I could figure that out, right? If somebody comes to us and says, hey, check out this cool app, it does this, we're thinking in our head, I wonder how that works in the background, right? I love being a software developer, and that's, why am I talking about this? but you know, it's a constant thing. We talk about, we're constantly striving for freedom. When I came out to the UK 20 years ago, it was 20 years ago on the 15th of May, right? I thought, you know, my life is over, but my self-esteem was so much lower than it is now, right? So I think, so, oh yeah, the question was when I was like 25. When I was 25, that's where I was. When I was 25, I was working in the dairy, and I was like thinking, why won't somebody give me an opportunity, right? Rather than I need to get out there and do it. And you know, and it was that having your back against the wall where you just go, I'm just going to apply for everything. In fact, when I am out of work, like when I was out of work, I would do the same thing. I apply for everything, right? And they say, can you do this? Yeah, I could do that. You think, we'll figure it out, right? If you could learn code, you could learn anything, right? We think in such abstract you know, ways that you know, have you ever been in the shower and you're just thinking about the code that you were writing and you just can't figure it out? Or you're like, you're working on something all day, and then when you walk to the car at the end of the day, that's when it pops into your head because you were always thinking about it. And it's terrible because you'd be like with your family and stuff like that, and you're thinking, hey, maybe if I set a reference to that from another area, or maybe if I extracted that function out, I know what it is. That callback is probably getting called more than once, right? All this kind of stuff, and it's constantly working in the back of your head. Versus somebody who says, "I'm a natural born leader. Yes, I'm. You know, I'll be the visionary." In fact, there was one guy. Sorry, there was one guy who said to me at one point, because when I was in the army, I learned Chinese Mandarin. That was the skill, right? And I've never really had a need to use it, but you know, I would like to one day. Right, so. I remember I had a manager at one of the places I worked, and he said to me one day, he goes, you know what, you and I should go into business together. And I'd already started Overpass, but I didn't really talk about it very much. He said, you and I should go into business together. I said, oh, why is that? He goes, well, with my management skills and your software development and Chinese skills, I think we could go far. And I thought, it seems like I'm bringing everything to the table in this arrangement, because you're talking about things that are just sort of, I mean, management is not like I mean, it is a skill, but it's one that I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to learn to be better with social skills. I'm always trying to learn to be better with, making the right decisions, not being embarrassed when I call someone up, making videos where I don't feel like I'm embarrassed and everything like that. But there's so much opportunity out there, and if you can learn to code, you can learn to do all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the times, we let them, sorry, it's us and them, but we let them tell us, why they're better than us, and when you really look hard at it, you realize that they're not. So I'm gonna go back and read some of these questions. I run native ads. Carol says, why did I move to the UK? Yeah, because my mother-in-law was ill. So that was it. And that was I know I did a video about this before. I mean, it's kind of a long story, but I've never felt like more of a fraud in my life than going to that open evening, because it was like the dairy was like everybody. I mean, it was a blue collar job. It was, you go wear these white overall and hat, and you go into the factory, and I was kind of a novelty because I was the American guy there, and then when I got the job at Canary Wharf, I came back and I told everybody, I said, I just applied for everything, and then I got this one, and then I went to it, and surprisingly that they were impressed. They would at the interview, they were asking me questions like, tell me 5 reasons a manhole cover is round and all this kind of stuff. Right? It was like 1998, right? But I went back to the dairy and told everybody that, and everybody say the same. They all had an excuse to why they couldn't do it. They were like, oh, that's because you're American and they like Americans, or yeah, that's because this, or that's because that. That's you're obviously naturally gifted with computers, and I'm like, dude, I'm not. Right? We all have those situations where. Where we're struggling with something, and it's just we have to get through that. And there's times where, like I said, doing a PWA this week, where I got to that point where I was struggling with it, and then I just sort of said, screw it, I'll come back, I'll do that some other day, right? Whereas in the old days, it was like no. Jack Run says, if it's not too personal, why you left the USA? I plan on going back. I've always planned on going back, but my kids are getting bigger. They're growing up here. I don't want to take them away from here. But when they're big, I plan on going back on my own. It's funny because when I came out here was in '98, and when Clinton was being impeached, and then we had the Bush years, and 9/11 happened, Bush years, and it became not so, like, Americans became not so popular, and then Obama came in, and Americans were popular again, and now they're just not so popular again. But we'll see. Hey, Midnight Game Developer, hello. Let's see. So let's see. So, William Donahue says, can't stand being called a resource. I'm not a rock or a diamond. I'm a person. Lol. That's me too. I think you're an exchangeable resource, right? And I hated that. I can remember that day. That was a day that I decided I wanted to do my own company, or I wanted to do my own thing. It was taking a train home one day for a kids thing, and just sitting there and on the train in the middle of the day. And when you're working in a job and you see people who are like out and about in the middle of the day, you're thinking, don't these people work? Like, it's like, I met with somebody so I'm switching around. I met with somebody last year who I used to work with, and he wanted to meet up next time I was in London. I said, I have like 10 minutes or whatever, maybe we just meet up. And I say, so I met him. I said, hey, you want to go for a coffee or something like that? He says, I have to get back to my desk, otherwise my boss will get angry with me, right? And I can remember, it was like, it's been so long since I've done that, since I've had that feeling, but I can remember what that's like, right? You feel like you're being in the office, you feel like somebody's looking over your shoulders and looking down at you, and they're discussing you as a resource, and you're like, if you're not living up. And that was one of the things becoming a contractor, was when I became a contractor and I got really good at it. I mean, and I was always thinking about how do I improve my marketability and my skills and everything like that. I was always ready to leave someplace, right? If they wanted to play hardball with me, I'd say, okay, hey, I totally agree with you. I totally understand with you. My contract's up for renewal next month. I don't think I'm going to be renewing it. And then everyone panics and runs around. But that's just, you got to be the guy, and a lot of it has to do with self-marketing. Because I like a lot of developers I was working with as a contractor, like I was a highly paid contractor on some of the places, and there were developers who were probably more skilled than I was. They were definitely more skilled than I was, but they didn't have, like, if they were more willing to leave, then they probably would have been better treated, I think, if that makes sense. Let's see. iOS development says the the universe is strange. The universe is strange. I'm planning to leave my job in July, and it's 6 a.m. here, and Eric is talking about his experiences. Yeah, and Miguel says, I hated feeling that feeling for 8 hours. I hated that feeling. In fact, last week when my app was suspended, and I told you the video about this week, where I was floating the idea of going out and finding a job. You know, I thought I'd just go take on a contract. That'll be all right. You know, because that's one thing, going from getting by to, like, I can be making $500 a day in a contract, and money will no longer be an issue. But then I would give up all of this, and I would just be sitting there in the office, and sitting at a desk, and somebody will say, "Hey, it's lunchtime. We're getting." There's one place I was working. I was so miserable. They give me, like, as a contractor, you go into a place and they give you like the worst desk in the whole place. Because when somebody leaves, everyone takes their desk or their chair or whatever. So you get the worst computer, the worst desk. There's one desk facing the wall, and I'm just sitting there coding away. And I was expensive, so they were like, they didn't want me to do anything. How's everything going? How's everything going? Fine. And they wouldn't let me work from home either. So I'm just sitting there coding away. And the only time we actually left was when we would walk to the corner co-op, which is like a grocery store, buy the sandwiches in plastic, and then walk back to the office. And you know what? I hated eating plastic sandwiches. I loved working in London, because you work in London, you go for a run or at lunchtime or whatever, or you could, like, just walk around the neighborhood or whatever, go for a walk. And this one place was just very oppressive. And I couldn't wait to leave. And then once it was over, I did. That was it. And I used to love it. One of my favorite things as a contractor, because you don't want a permanent job, but every so often they'll come to you and say, "Hey, we got good news for you. We would like to make you a permanent member of our staff." And you're like, no, thanks. So because it was too hard to leave to begin with. So let's see. Shajil says, I'm a Google certified Android developer with 5+ years of experience, currently looking for a contract/remote job. Cool. I think contracting is, people who don't contract will say stuff like, you don't have the medical benefits, you don't have these benefits, but if you make enough money, you could do all that kind of stuff. And then also, one of the things, so the way I became a contractor is also another story where I did something stupid, where I quit my job without having anything to go to. Right? So I had a month where I had no work, and everybody was like, I couldn't tell people that I left a perfectly good job, and our money was running out, and because we had hardly any savings, so I was only just making just enough to get by. And so I quit my job after years of saying I was going to do it, and I quit it, and it was like Christmas was coming up, and I remember having tears in my eyes, trying to fight back the tears, because I had 2 little boys that were like, it wasn't fair on them that that they had to have a bad Christmas, and I kept saying, I'm gonna go back and tell them I changed my mind. I'm gonna go to. My wife was like, no, you stick to your guns, and I kept looking for work and everything like that. And once I found that my first contract, I swore to myself I was never going to be in that situation again. I'm never going to put things that close to, like, I'm not going to give my livelihood over to somebody else like that again, where they make the decisions on what I work on, what I do, how much money I make, right? I'm going to make sure that I have enough money that if I'm out of work for 6 months, I can handle it, or a year, or whatever. And there was times where I would take off like a year and a half, work on Overpass stuff unsuccessfully. But but it was being able to make enough money to make that happen. Otherwise, it was also very scary and very risky. So, let's see. And Jack Run said, "Did you try the new Android app bundle method?" No, not yet. I haven't done anything on the new Android stuff yet. So cool. So everybody, sorry, I know I keep thinking I'm going to make these shorter. This is about exact same length as last week. Thanks everybody for showing up. Sorry to ramble on so much about my past, don't think too little of me that I don't have a computer science degree. You know, but you know, I've done pretty well as a software developer over the last 20 years or so. So anyway, thanks everyone for showing up. I hope should we do this again next week? Should we do this again next week? I'll try to do another one earlier in the day at some point. Maybe I could do 2 a week. And I know I keep saying that, but it gets so busy. Hey, Graham. That's all right. That's all right. Cool. All right, everyone, have a fantastic week. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on the daily video. And thanks so much for showing up. And have a fantastic weekend. Okay, bye.